What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
Hey guys, and welcome to Fantasy Points' newest show. It's the Underdog Drafter Party. I'm Jake Tribbey, and I'm here with my co-host, one of the best football writers around, and now a full-time Fantasy Points employee, Ryan Heath. Me and Ryan will be drafting Battle Royale teams, talking about our favorite scroll-down options, and discussing contest-specific strategy throughout this show. With that out of the way, how are you doing, Ryan? This had to be a pretty great week for you, man.
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. And yeah, it has been amazing. Anyone that's congratulated me or said thank you, thank you guys. It's been, I've had an unreal last 48 hours or so.
I bet. I was tagged in the post, so I also got the notifications for the congratulations, and I can say
sorry about that.
You've gotten quite a few. No, well deserved. I certainly didn't mind, and especially since I barely tweeted this week, I didn't mind the extra notifications. All right. Well, we can get into this slate. I think this is a really tricky slate overall. It's a bit thinner than previous weeks because there's only 10 games on the main slate. Starting out with quarterback here. Ryan, it seems like, top three options, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, all solid. After that, things get a little bit iffy. Jordan Love has been pushed up sort of into that tier, at least if we look at ADP here. How do you feel about this top tier of quarterbacks, and are there any scroll down guys you're going after?
So of the top tier, I just like Lamar the most. I like the game environment the most. Seems most likely to shoot out. Pretty easy to do like the Zay Flowers stack there as well if you want. But yeah, really the deal with this slate is I kind of came in like earlier in the week and I was like, okay, I feel like I have some really good reads here. I really like the Green Bay game. I could maybe get weird with LA. I just feel like every take I had 48 hours ago is now like the chalk. And that's partially because of Romeo Dobbs being out and just, all the news items. But yeah, I'm feeling a little bit lost and just ready to kind of do crazy stuff on this slate. Like I think almost every lineup is going to be, I'm going from QB7 down and picking somebody and probably stacking with a bring back or double stacking is what this slate feels like to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I think I'm in a pretty similar spot. I mean, I certainly don't mind sort of, projection maxing, and I've been letting, some auto drafts sort of take care of that for me when I am, looking to grab the top three quarterbacks. When I'm manually drafting, though, I do find myself generally pushing toward, some of these later round guys and some of these lesser owned double stacks, just because it feels like, either a single or a naked Jaden Daniels, Lamar, Josh Allen is going to be really popular. And then the Jordan Love doubles are so easy to get to with the way ADP falls. You take Jaden Reed in the first round, Love in the third, and then you can wrap it up with a Wicks or a Kraft later on. It's a little bit too easy, and it's going to be, massive chalk this week. A couple other housekeeping items before I move on to running back here. Some of you guys may be wondering, this doesn't look like the default Underdog screen. We've got my exposures, we've got totals, we've got weather. Why is that? Well, over at bestballoverlay.com, they have this really sick overlay tool that, I use while I draft, and you guys will see it in drafts. Shows you ownership. It'll show you combinatorial ownership, which I think is really, really nice. So that way you can make sure you aren't drafting too much of, Jaden Daniels plus Amari Cooper, or maybe, you haven't drafted enough of that. It'll show you stuff like that. And, like I said, weather, totals. It's really, really nice. I really appreciate the overlay. It's reasonably priced as well. And you can save an additional $10 with promo code PARTY. Again, that is promo code PARTY for $10 off your monthly subscription. We also have a free Discord in the Fantasy Points Discord. Good chunk of the Fantasy Points Discord is paywalled because there's a lot of great stuff from our fantastic analysts in there. The Underdog Battle Royale channel is not paywalled, so you guys can get free, unlimited access to me and Ryan to ask us all your Battle Royale questions. Can keep us up at all hours of the day. Ryan's full time now, so he has nothing to do but answer
no excuse,
your battle.
But yeah,
exactly.
Respond to you. Exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Do not let that man sleep. Get in that Discord. Ask us some questions. I think it's just a really great place to talk ball. We'll randomly post our thoughts on the slate, talk about various draft strategies. So, we can get even more depth in there than we can, in a limited hour long show. great stuff. So definitely check out our Discord. Moving on to running back here. We have, I think, a pretty clear top four. It's kind of similar to quarterback where there is a very, very defined top tier. Ryan, how are you looking at these top four running backs? Do you have any strong preferences here? Because to me, I think Kenny Walker would be the best value relative to ADP. I think I like him straight up more than Kyron Williams. What are your thoughts?
I'm kind of with you there. And I will say if I'm drafting like towards if I'm in like the 4 or the 5 slot, I'm just taking Walker most of the time, unless I have a specific intention of like stacking Jamar Chase from there or something, or Jaden Reed from there. I'm just taking Walker because it's just so far above the replacement level these 4 guys are. Is I'm just kind of fine pushing Walker up by default a few spots, maybe above where he specifically projects for us. Aside from that, Mason and Henry are both really solid to me. That's a pretty clear 101, 102 in my opinion. And after that, I think you can kind of do whatever you want. If we're scrolling down, I really like Jerome Ford. It projects really well for us. Really like the just kind of the matchup schematically, where Ford and the Browns run a lot of man gap stuff, and the Commanders have been especially bad against that. So that kind of works on a lot of levels. He actually works as leverage on some of the chalkier guys on this slate, or well, really on Jaden Daniels. But yeah, I need to find ways to get off of Ford because he's ending up on way too many of my rosters so far. So I'm curious if you have any other scroll downs you like, or anywhere else to attack the running back position.
Yeah, I mean, running back is tough. One of my notes from Cashing Points, and Scott noted this in our slate breakdown, if Brian Robinson Jr. sits, Austin Eckler is going to be an amazing play in this format. We've seen Cliff Kingsbury ride with a bell cow whenever one of his top 2 running backs is out. And I believe if you look at last week's numbers prior to the fourth quarter, Brian Robinson had about 80% of backfield touches. Of course, got vultured by McNichols earlier in the game, and then lost that fourth quarter work because the game was just a bit out of hand. But I would say Eckler's really interesting. Beyond that, it is a really tough week for scroll downs at running back. I mean, DeAndre Swift is okay here. The usage was obviously great last week, 30% target share, only 33% of inside the 10 carries though this season, which is quite concerning for me. I'm really not interested in guys like James Conner. Etienne, I guess, is okay. Javonte Williams feels quite gross. And I don't think, Tyrone Tracy might be reasonable in say like a 12-team format. In a 6-teamer, there's just no real reason to go there. So I think it's a better week than most for grabbing a later round wide receiver. I just see more depth at wide receiver in these later rounds. Do you have any take on that as we move on?
Yeah, no, I largely agree. I think Etienne kind of makes sense. I'd be into it if he was getting goal line work, but as of last week, he just is not. Bigsby got both of the inside the 10 carries, I believe. So yeah, it gets pretty hard there. I'm gonna have the most 3 wide receiver builds of the season for me is what it's looking like it's going to shape up as.
Yeah, that's where I am at too. We've been playing around in like sort of behind the scenes with some rankings, and just throwing in our rankings into some auto drafts. I've definitely been getting more 3 wide receiver builds than a traditional week. And I think it just speaks to how well some of these later round wide receivers end up projecting. But talking about wide receiver here, to me, it's pretty straightforward until we get to Deontay Johnson, who is, once again, a screaming value at a 24 ADP. Overall, I'm pretty happy grabbing any of these guys near the top. I don't have much DK Metcalf, but I'm attempting to make a point of changing that. Ryan, how do you feel about these wide receivers at the top of drafts?
Yeah, I like pretty much all of them. Probably Chase sticks out the most to me. Again, that's just a game environment take. And also that you brought this up on Cashing Points. But Chase's targets per route run since 2022 more than double when Burrow doesn't get pressured. And the Bengals have the best O-line, D-line matchup going into this week. The Ravens have not been generating much pressure. So I really like that as an angle, and that's making me willing to just take Chase over a Ken Walker sometimes, as I was alluding to earlier. Aside from that, I found myself ending up with a lot of Marvin Harrison, for a couple reasons, I guess. One is that it seems like he just falls. I think people will like kind of as soon as Debo comes off the board, they're like, okay, I'm gonna do like start working on my double stack, and I don't care about ADP anymore. So I'm getting a lot of Harrison, like well into the third round or into the fourth round. He projects decently well, and obviously we know what the ceiling is there. And also, Kyler Murray is a pretty just logical scroll down at quarterback for me as well. Obviously, we kind of love how all these 49ers project. Pretty likely that Kyler gets pushed, I think. I can't imagine that they come out and do what they did against the Commanders again. Maybe that's me being too optimistic. But yeah, so getting a decent bit of Harrison. I like Wicks. I like Brian Thomas. Both of them featured in advanced matchups this week. Kind of my biggest issue is that I didn't think that they would get pushed up in ADP as much as they have. I know Thomas has been like a very popular kind of pick around the industry this week, so it makes some sense. And then I think just about every show has been talking up Jordan Love doubles. So I can see how we got here, and I still want to do it. Don't get me wrong, because I do like these plays and believe in these plays. I just wish we were getting more of an ownership discount. So I think the way to do it is to kind of use like your Wicks or your Thomas as your bring back and get really weird. Go with like a Matthew Stafford stack with a Whittington, with an Atwell, go with a Joe Flacco and Josh Downs to get to be on the other side of Thomas. That's what I'm kind of thinking right now. But yeah, no, it's tough at wide receiver, man. It's just so many different ways you can go. I would just kind of ignore what the ADPs say.
Yeah, no, I think that's a sharp take on using both Thomas and Wicks as some bringbacks, especially in larger field stuff. I think I'd probably focus on, maybe getting them in a bit more traditional stacks and in some smaller field stuff. Thomas, not quite as much, but at least Wicks. But yeah, in larger fields, I think you can certainly get weird at quarterback. Another guy that I wanted to note here is Michael Pittman Jr. Things are obviously very up in the air right now with Anthony Richardson. We are leaning towards Joe Flacco playing. That's what we have projected in right now. And that pushes Michael Pittman Jr. to our wide receiver 7 in terms of our half PPR projections. And he's not being taken at all. If Joe Flacco starts, Michael Pittman's going to be an amazing play in both DFS and Battle Royale formats. You could say the exact same thing about Josh Downs, who is slightly further down for us, but still, a pretty great value at the wide receiver 13. So yeah, those are two guys who I think are pretty great scroll down options. Obviously a bit more speculative right now because we just don't know what's going to happen with AR and Joe Flacco, but Colts Beats were saying today, this is the least I've ever seen Anthony Richardson practice. Joe Flacco's taking all the first team reps. I would be pretty surprised if it ended up being AR. I also think we might be looking at a bit of a soft benching here, a la Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, where he's just played so bad. Why not give Flacco a couple weeks and just see what happens? So I am willing to take those guys now. I think once the news comes out, they're going to be amazing picks once we know Flacco starts, even if the ADP does rise up because they've gone undrafted. And, probably by the time the news comes out, 70 or 80% of Battle Royale drafts. I don't think there's anyone else I was super excited to talk about here as a scroll down. So we can move on to tight end, which as always is pretty brutal. Top 4 all going in a pretty similar range: Bowers, McBride, Kincaid, and Kittle. For what it's worth, Dr. Edwin Porras, who, does a lot of our injury analysis for us, he's a doctor of physical therapy, very, very sharp guy. He said he expects Kittle to be limited. This is a rib injury where he should have some more issues with contact. So that is certainly a concern to me. Among these top 4, I view 3 of them pretty similarly, but Trey McBride is the best standout option. He's seen close to a 40% target share when Kyler Murray is pressured this year. We know San Francisco can get a ton of pressure. I think if Kyler is going to face, 40, 45% pressure rate, McBride could be peppered with targets. And as we noted on Cashing Points, something that I actually missed before Cashing Points, Fred Warner might miss. And Fred Warner is like the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. Anything to add there, Ryan?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on just leaning to McBride. Kind of want McBride on as many teams as I can. He's just had the
Yeah.
most consistent usage of these guys. Like, I'm fine taking Kittle, although I did miss that note from Edwin, so probably need to come off that a little bit in terms of how much I've already drafted him.
For what it's worth, Kittle's played through literally everything and still done fine. Like, he had a torn labrum for years and he was fine. He's just like, he's an animal. So if there's anyone who that injury wouldn't affect, it would be George Kittle, but it is, I think, worth noting.
Yeah, definitely. But other than that, I would describe this tight end slate as deep. Like, I'm totally fine just taking just waiting and getting David Njoku or even like an Ingram if I'm planning to stack the Colts or something. But yeah, Njoku it is clearly the most efficient player against two high shells for the Browns. Which Dan Quinn has weirdly been playing a lot of this year. Like, just doesn't want to get deep with those DBs that Washington's working with, I guess. So that could be good for Njoku. So I think I liked it better before the ADP started to come up. But I mean, I still like it. I still like Njoku here. I don't really have much desire to get weird at tight end or to scroll down much though this week, just because it's so easy to scroll down at the quarterback position that I don't feel like you need to do it here.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty solid take. For what it's worth, just peeking our projections here, we actually have Evan Ingram and Colby Parkinson with a higher projection, just by a couple tenths, than Dalton Kincaid. So, both of those guys would pop as pretty solid values. Parkinson also has had a crazy low projection on Underdog all week, and I don't understand why. I kind of theorized in our Discord that I think Underdog expected Tyler Higbee to come back this week. A few sites, he was eligible to come back this week. He's not going to be back this week. It's going to be Colby Parkinson. He's second in the team in targets over the last couple weeks. It's still pretty gross, but at least based on, comparing our projections to ADP, I think Parkinson is actually a pretty solid value. But overall, I line up with what you said, where probably just don't want to get too weird at tight end. Easier to get weird at the other positions. I think we spent enough time breaking down the slate. We can get into some drafts here. First, let's just look through the contests. Just wanted to give a couple notes. Dog Bowl qualifiers are horrendous unless you have, unlimited budget. If you've already maxed everything else, or if you really want to go to Dallas, you can play the Dog Bowl. 50% rake, though. Extremely top heavy. You are going to get absolutely killed by variance if you play Dog Bowl qualifiers. So keep that in mind. Main Battle Royale and the Wildcat are two of my favorite contests, specifically the Wildcat, because it only pays the top 10%, but the payout structure is very flat in the top 10%. So, we're always going for those, top 0.1% outcomes, and the payouts in the Wildcat in those ranges are significantly better than they would be in, say, the $5 Battle Royale. So I really like the Wildcat. Beyond that, I certainly enjoy these like smaller single entry contests. Something like, I believe if I go a little further here, like this 3 entry max, the third and long with only 500 entrants. Like, these are contests where I want to go really hard on correlation. I love double stacks in these sub 1,000 battle royales. I think generally speaking, that's how you want to approach these kinds of contests. You can go a little bit, get a little bit away from correlation in some of the larger field stuff. Ryan, do you have anything to add on underdog contests before we hop into, we'll start with the Wildcat draft here?
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I always preach, like do your single entries, do your 3 maxes first. Because it's just easier. It's just easier to win money in those, in my opinion. I will say though, if there's any week where I want to lean more into the large field stuff, it's probably this week. Just because I think projections, we called out like 2 values in the entire front half of the show. The projections are all very, very flat this week. So I'm just expecting a lot of variance. Like, normally I'd be happy to kind of get into the small field stuff and like take the easy money on the guys that we have projected as really big values. But man, this week I want to get as many like weird combinations and weird scroll down quarterback stacks as I possibly can. And that's just, kind of more conducive to the large field stuff. I'm still going to play all the small field stuff. But I just, that it's kind of where my brain is this week more so than ever before.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Kevin said he is in this draft, so appreciate that, Kevin. Hell yeah. Love the Wildcat. I'll probably end up having, I don't know, 80, 100 Wildcat teams, and I'll hammer all the single entry and 3 max stuff. We drew the 106 here, which is a pretty tough spot. Generally at the 106, these top 4 running backs are off the board. I think best case scenario for us is probably grabbing Kenny Walker here. What do you think?
Yeah, no, agreed. It's an auto selection if there's a running back here. But otherwise, I think we just kind of pick our stack and start on it early. Really, that's the type of week it is for large field.
Yeah. And I think, generally speaking, just because there's such a big drop off at running back, that's why you just don't want to get out of round 1 without one of these running backs. Not to say you still, you can still make it work, but like if Kenny Walker goes here, I'm probably looking at, maybe a Burrow double. Maybe we could do like a Chalky Love double and grab a scroll down option. Oh, and we got Kenny Walker. So that's great news. We could do Walker and Jaden Reed, Walker, and they took Jamar. Do you like anyone else beyond Kenny Walker here?
No, we can go Walker Reed and start figuring out what we do with the Green Bay Rams game.
Yeah. I mean, if we are going to go with a Jordan Love double, and I think this is just a big note for this slate, you really want to just prioritize getting different elsewhere. Because if there are going to be double stacks in these, large field battle royales, large field wildcats, it's going to be Jordan Love doubles. I mean, they're just so easy to make this week. It's ridiculous. When I was drafting, a couple drafts on my phone before falling asleep on Tuesday, I thought, oh, Jordan Love stacks are really easy. And they've only gotten pushed up further in terms of overall popularity and narrative. I mean, every DFS show is talking about Jordan Love, Dontavian Wicks, Jalen Reed. It's getting a bit repetitive, I got to say, Ryan. So if you're a big time content consumer, you're probably a bit sick of hearing about how good the Packers double stacks are going to be.
Don't you feel like that's just your worst nightmare? So I kind of have this like mental issue where if I have a take that I feel good about and then everybody else kind of comes onto it, I'm immediately like, oh, I must be wrong. Like I need to think about this some more from a different angle because there's no way. I don't think this is
wrong.
real.
Never wrong.
that is in last week that was correct. The previous 3 weeks not so much. So I don't know, man. I just I feel nervous. I feel nervous about this slate, which is not where you want to be.
I get that. Yeah. Ryan, I think something to keep in mind too is that the more popular your Twitter gets and your overall voice gets, the more you will drive the narrative on all these players. So, eventually you might be the one controlling ADP, the one pulling the strings here. Certainly a wild thought, but it is possible. McBride's off the board, and like we noted, he's certainly our favorite tight end option here. I think if we want to grab a Love double, we pretty much have to take him with one of our next couple picks. No reason to wait on him. So do you want to go that route and then just grab a scroll down option with our last pick?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, double him with Wicks or with Kraft or whatever.
Yeah, we could do that here. Let's see. Kraft's tight end 5. I mean, that's pretty tough. I think I'd rather just grab Wicks. I said Kraft's name because that's like I need to get weird. I need to do something different because there's no way I'm right. That's what that was coming out just now in real time. But I think we just go Love Wicks. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense, and then we can get a little weird for our final 2 picks. We'll still need a tight end, still need a flex, but so far pretty happy with this build. Jordan Love, Kenny Walker, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. Again, mega chalk. I'm sure plenty of other teams have this build. I've mostly auto drafted, so I don't know how many double stacks I have landed on at this point. Let's see. So tight end, we could just go best player available at tight end. Like, in an ideal world, somebody like Bowers would fall to us. I suppose we could consider a Love triple stack, but to me, that's really only viable in smaller field stuff. I think in a 37,000 entry like the Wildcat, I'm not super eager to triple stack. If you want a triple stack Jordan Love, I would recommend DFS because that's where the triple stacks are a lot more viable. Would you line up with that, Ryan?
Yeah, no, agreed. I
All
think triple is way too much here.
Yeah. I think for this specific contest, it is too much. If we were in like, I believe there's a, like a $50, 200-man contest, something along those lines. I love triple stack. I think would be fantastic for a format like that. We could always run it back with our boy Colby Parkinson, who's, certainly fallen well beyond where he should because his projection's just incorrect on Underdog. I have no idea what they're doing with that. I don't know how they arrived at that number. See what else we have here. Man,
I've been fading like the Brock Bowers schematic matchup for 2 weeks in a row now, and it's been correct for 2 weeks, and it's the same exact thing this week. So I'm like inclined to just stay on that train. Because this is we're just doing all this insight into my psyche tonight. when people tell me a take is wrong and then it turns out to be right, I double down. That's like, it's like the total opposite effect. If I'm being told like you're an idiot, why are you caring about the 10 route sample of Bowers against cover one?
A lot of people did tell you that last week.
Yes, a lot of people did tell me that, and I didn't even quote tweet or go back and like any. I was so good. I was so squeaky clean on Twitter this week, Jake.
Very mature from a full-time fantasy analyst. I mean, that's what you would expect from someone who's full-time in the industry. I certainly wouldn't hate Parkinson here. We would need a flex. So do you have anyone who really pops? I kind of like T. Higgins.
I do like Higgins. I like Zay Flowers. I like Jerome Ford. I could name like like 8 guys, but
yeah, Ford is a guy who I still haven't grabbed enough of. I certainly like him, so we'll go Parkinson Ford. Ford should definitely be going above Trey Sermon at the very least. Projects better for us and has been way better in negative script. He's out there for about 85% of snaps in negative script. Washington, I believe, is a 3.5-point favorite, as you can see per our wonderful bestballoverlay.com overlay. So we can grab Jerome Ford here, wrap up the team. So it's a Jordan Love double stack with Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Kenny Walker, Jerome Ford at running back, and then Colby Parkinson at tight end. This is a team that I like. I think we did grab chalk, obviously, with our first 4 picks, but I think, Jerome Ford and Parkinson, both guys who, should be sub 10% owned. So if you are going to go with a Jordan Love build, I certainly like sort of building it out like this. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, agreed. I think kind of the key with Love is that I need the Rams bring back that's going to be lower owned, and Parkinson works. I like Atwell just for the pressure matchup. Tutu Atwell, the stat was I think 4th in yards per out run on unpressured dropbacks this season, behind like Rashee Rice, Justin Jefferson, and Juwan Jennings or something like that. So if Love does get pushed, I think maybe that's how. So that not that I'm gonna be like, okay, we need to go force in some Tutu Atwell now in our next stack, but it's just worth noting here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. One of the nice things Underdog has done, at least this week, is we do have some smaller dollar sort of small field contests. So like the Deposit Kingdom contest, shout out Pete Overzet. And I believe there was one other. Yeah, they got rid of the Engage 8, and I believe they replaced it with the Cover 4, which is a 4-entry max, 1K to first $7 tournament. So those are both contests that are small enough that I think you could implement, significantly higher, rates of correlation. But let's see if we can get into a 3rd and long here. So this is a 564-man contest. Oh, and there's no one in, so we won't wait for that one. That's the most fun part.
Cover 4 is interesting because I believe it only pays out like the top 10% when I was looking at it earlier, which is a little bit different. Most of these are 20% ish, or maybe I just did the math wrong when I was looking earlier in my head.
No, I think you're right. It's closer to 12 or 15. Standard for guaranteed prize pool tournaments and in poker and DFS, and for the most part in Battle Royale is top 20 or so percent. So I do kind of like these top 10% contests a bit more. All right, let's try the single entry $20, the victory formation. Let's see if we can get in one here. And there's no one here. That's the most fun part of the show, Ryan, is me trying to balance waiting for a draft to start versus, just panic entering whatever fills up the fastest.
No, we could not get into anything aside from like just the main battle royales last week. I don't know how Jake normally does this. Where I feel like we normally get in at least a couple different contests, but I was just sitting there like, sorry, Chris. Shout out Chris White. Sorry, we're sitting here just waiting for something else to fill.
It happens. Well, why don't we rip a wildcat and then we can come back to some of those smaller field contests. I'll keep an eye on those in my other monitor. We can go out of our way here to sort of get maybe a bit more unique in this next one. So Ryan, do you have any stacks you want to target? I think generally if I'm getting, we always want to take one of these top 4 running backs, but if we draw pick 5, pick 6, and the first 4 picks are all running backs, I kind of love going Jamar Chase and then, waiting on Higgins and Burrow. Eric All, I guess, is viable for DFS. I don't really see it in this format when, there are plenty of good tight end options. I think if you were trying to double stack Burrow in like a 12-man draft, Eric All might be reasonable once all the other tight ends are off the board. Like he would have to be your very final pick. We draw pick 6 here, so this is a pretty good spot where we could get, like a Jamar Chase build. So any other thoughts on ways we could get weird from this 6 hole?
I'm into Chase for sure. Another thing I've been doing, I don't necessarily know that it's like optimal or viable, but I don't know that anything is on this slate. Deontay Johnson is like the one and only like genuine projected value. Just kind of throwing some Andy Dalton in there doesn't feel like the worst thing in the world. I don't love the game or the game environment or anything, but if this is like the one wide receiver that we feel really good about as a value, and plus the projections are flat everywhere else along the slate, then maybe that's when it makes sense to just stack him with Dalton. I don't know if you have like a strong take against that though. I will come off of it immediately.
I mean, it is a pretty brutal matchup. This Bears secondary is good. I think, without a doubt, top 8 or so in just about every metric that matters. So that makes me pretty hesitant about Andy Dalton in general this week. All right. And, for the first 5 picks here, we're running back. So we are going to be able to grab Jamar Chase. Do we want to round that out with a guy like Jaden Reed? What are your thoughts? I wouldn't mind a 3 wide receiver build given how weak running back gets later on.
Yeah, that's the only thing to keep in mind is if we go Reed here, and if we want a bring back, then we're into a 3 wide receiver build. But that's totally fine when we have no access to any of the actual 4 good running backs on the slate.
Bringbacks, I think if you are running out Bengals doubles, are a little tricky because it's basically impossible to get like a Derrick Henry Jamar Chase team. Appreciate all the comments, by the way, guys. Thanks for stopping in to say hi. We may end up waiting for one of these single entry drafts to fill later on, so then we can grab some start sit questions or whatever else you guys have. But I think that's the tricky part with Bengals stacks is that you can't really do Henry as a run back unless you wanted to go just a Burrow Higgins Henry team, which is fine. And then Zay Flowers is solid. I believe I'm pretty sure you had a matchup note on Flowers that I ripped. He's fine, but not overly excited. I really don't think you have to run it back on the Cincinnati side. Any other thoughts there?
I kind of want to. That, like I was saying, this is just the week where I feel like I actually want to lean into correlation even in the larger field stuff. Because with Flowers, it's much more efficient against single high since the start of his career. I think that works. Even if you're not on like a Burrow double, if you're on a Burrow single plus Flowers, I think that's okay. But no, you're right. There's nothing you can do other than Henry and him. Besides, there's nothing else I'm interested in there. Not playing Mark Andrews, not playing Isaiah Likely.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's That's pretty ridiculous. And obviously you can't play any of these secondary receiving options. I think we're pretty much locked into a tight end with one of these picks. And we both know our favorite is Trey McBride on this slate. So I think I just want to grab McBride here. And then beyond that, we probably want to start working on our stack in some capacity. I mean, let's see, where's our boy Higgins going? Okay, he's 33.7. I mean, we could wait. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, you can absolutely wait. So yeah, we take McBride here. We figure out running back, and yeah, very, very good. If we're just doing Burrow Higgins after that, then that's pretty safe, I think.
I mean, just looking at our rankings, Chuba Hubbard is pretty clearly the best option. And I mean, everything has been there for Chuba. The expected fantasy points, the actual fantasy points. He's the RB4 over the last 2 weeks. It's been pretty great. So I think I'm more than fine with Chuba here. And I think overall this build will be fairly unique with a Burrow double, Jaden Reed, McBride. We aren't scrolling down too far, but, for the most part, just from, sort of anecdotal experience, I really don't think people are stacking as much as they should be in Battle Royale formats. And I certainly don't think people are double stacking as much as they should be, especially with a quarterback like Joe Burrow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like every week that I think it makes sense, because anytime inherently that you're double stacking, you're probably sacrificing projection, because people want to stack. Like pieces will get pulled up generally in ADP if there are popular stacks like we're seeing with the Packers. But yeah, it is hashtag projections don't matter week. That's how I'm viewing it. So yeah, this would be the time to lean into it a lot.
Yeah, I think that is pretty reasonable. Definitely a bit more of a game theory week than weeks past. I feel like in previous shows we've just come in here and we've been like, ADP is all wrong. I just want these 6 guys on every team. Yeah. And it's just not quite like that this week here. So hopefully we don't get sniped on any of these guys, but this is shaping up to be a Joe Burrow, Chuba Hubbard, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Jaden Reed, Trey McBride team. That's a team I like quite a bit. Again, we don't have the Baltimore run back. I don't necessarily think you need it. But wouldn't hate, even reaching a little further and maybe going, a Burrow double with a Zay Flowers. I certainly think that's viable in a format like the Wildcat.
No, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I think I guess my concern with the Burrow stacks, just from game theory perspective, is you can't have Chase and Henry on a team effectively. Yeah. I ripped 25 or so drafts before we got on stream, and I don't think I saw it happen a single time. So if it does happen, then yeah, that team's the nuts. Good for you. But I don't know. I think I also want to make sure I'm building Henry and then Burrow Higgins or what have you as well. There's just too many ways that you kind of have to go at the game. I like doing it from the Lamar Jackson side too.
It is much easier to piece together Lamar Zay Chase or Lamar Zay T Higgins than it is, a Burrow double with Derrick Henry. So certainly worth noting. And I mean, obviously we like Lamar. How could you not? Didn't manage to get into one of those $25. We'll try the 20s again. See how those are looking. Still nothing. Ryan, while I struggle to find a contest, do you want to peek at the chat to see if anyone's asked us anything exciting?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, just kind of scrolling down. Chris traded Jamo for Ramondre Stevenson an hour ago. I am very sorry about that. That's a rough beat. I mean, that situation's funny to me at Patriots fan here. It's very transparent to me that Mayo is just kind of living in Belichick's shadow, and you can hear it from the local media too. Is all week has been, oh well, if Mayo was like Belichick, he would have benched him 2 weeks ago. This is ridiculous. This is this is the Patriots. We don't accept fumbles or turnovers or mistakes. You sit on the bench if that happens. So I genuinely think the local media got Ramondre Stevenson benched. He
has fumbled in 4 straight games. Drive.
He has. It's true. But yeah, I really see all of this like not even on a football level, just more on like just a meta level with like a new coach trying to like earn his keep. So yeah, that's a little extra tilting for me. Do I start Pittman or Wicks this week? I think if Flacco's in, it's pretty clearly Pittman. If not, I'm gonna say Wicks. I have no idea if that's in line with our projections. But yeah, Wicks is kind of my guy.
I would say if AR starts, it's definitely Wicks, and if Flacco starts, it's probably closer to a coin flip for me. But I would lean towards Pittman. I mean, he is projecting quite well for us. I think maybe you could argue, and I haven't peeked at Chris's adjustments since he put Flacco in there, but maybe you could argue that Downs is a slightly better option with Flacco, and he shreds man. This is a man heavy Jaguars team that they're up against, so.
Yeah, that one's kind of weird because as we were talking about earlier in the week, Jake, the Jaguars like just surprisingly came out the first 4 weeks or 3 weeks of the season at just incredibly man heavy, which was not what they had ever done before. And then week 4 against Nico Collins, they went back to being incredibly zone heavy. They were down to like an 8% man coverage rate. So I have no idea what they're going to do this week. But luckily, I don't think it has that big of like a schematic implication for like choosing between Pittman or Downs. Pittman's basically even over the last few years between man and zone. Downs is actually in results is slightly better against zone. But in terms of average separation score last year, he was top 10 against man. So I think both of these guys can kind of succeed against either defense. So yeah, I think it's probably overthinking it to even like have that conversation that I just had in this case. I don't think there's necessarily like a schematic edge to be had between the two of them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it is, I mean, just to kind of emphasize, it is just really weird what the Jaguars did, trotting out all-time high rates of man coverage, doing it against Miami, letting Tyreek Hill just absolutely cook you. And then deciding, we're going to reverse course either because of Nico Collins or because we're, terrible. Well, I mean, the secondary is so bad that they're still awful at zone. I mean, I think I noted in the chat that we have with Scott that they're giving up more fantasy points per dropback playing zone than they are playing man. So it really doesn't matter what they run. Like you said, I think both for these Indianapolis wide receivers and just, broadly speaking, when we analyze future coverage matchups, maybe they'll, keep mixing it up, but it just doesn't matter when the secondary is so bad. So I did hop into a 12-man draft here. It's the $3 squib kick with 3,700 entrants. We only need one more person. So if anyone watching wants to hop in and fill this bad boy up, feel free. But I'm willing to wait it out as long as it takes, Ryan, so that we can get a 12-man draft here. I actually haven't ripped a 12-man yet, but I always love the 12-man strategy because we just get so much deeper into the player pool. And generally speaking, the sharper you are, the more you want to get deeper into the player pool because there are just bigger edges with, some of these fringe guys than there are in smaller drafts.
Yeah, and this, like I've been saying, is the week for it. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to get into a 12-man and go, and we could do a Flacco stack, Flacco doubles in 12-mans. We can go Stafford here and have it not even be a meme. Like, so much fun stuff we could do.
I love these ideas. We did draw the 105, which I think is a pretty great pick. I'm very optimistic we can get one of these top 4 running backs, which I think is pretty important in these 12-mans. I've seen, I believe it is Dog Pound Fantasy. It did a show with Billy Jones where they sort of talked about, just various battle royale dynamics in terms of like pick slot, when you're drafting, all kinds of things. It was a very interesting show. But one of the most straightforward things that they noted is that the 101 just in general is worth a lot more than, say the 105. Got a request to zoom in. I appreciate you reminding me because I forgot to do that before this show. Hopefully that looks okay. I think that looks a little bit better on my screen, but appreciate the reminder to zoom in because generally producer Thomas reminds me, and I'm a bit dumb and I never remember myself. So appreciate that, guys. But yeah, this is a really good pick because I do view it as being, obviously Jordan Mason and, Derrick Henry are your top 2 guys, but I do view the top 4 running backs as being pretty crucial to this slate. It's easy to grab them in a 6-man draft. In a 12-man, though, if you just got cooked on your pick luck, it would certainly be tough.
So if 4 straight running backs go here, how do you feel? Are you on Nico Collins this week? It's hard to not be in on Nico Collins in any given week. But I think it's a possibility we should prepare ourselves for.
It certainly is. I mean, yeah, Nico doesn't excite me quite as much as a guy like Chase does. Just because I don't want to stack CJ Stroud really this week. I don't view this as being a very favorable matchup, and thankfully I don't have to worry about it because we're going to get Kenny Walker. But yeah, I'm just not very interested in CJ Stroud stacks this week. And I think in DFS, CJ Stroud and the Texans are pretty appropriately priced. If you look at projections, projected ownership and all that. I think in Battle Royale, though, CJ Stroud and the Texans are being notably overdrafted. Nico Collins, I'm always more than fine with, regardless of the matchup, just because he's so damn good. But Stroud being QB5 is, I think, a bit iffy on this slate to me. And I believe Diggs is going pretty high as well, and he's quite down in our rankings. I haven't taken any Diggs, so people are taking Stroud doubles. I'm just not interested.
Yeah, I agree. I've done like a few singles where it's been like, okay, I have Collins and I've been preaching this and everything I've been preaching tonight about you need correlation this week. I've ended up with some, but yeah, it doesn't feel any different than taking Burrow or than taking Purdy or any number of like QB 7 through 12. So yeah, it's tough for me as well this week.
Yeah, I mean, in our projections, we have Stroud at 18.2 underdog points, Burrow with the exact same projection, Geno Smith 0.1 fewer underdog points, Purdy projects better. It's, there's just nothing super exciting about Stroud at QB5 and in this matchup. And I think if you look at the high total games, we mentioned this on Cashing Points, if any of them is going to fail, it's going to be the Houston-Buffalo game in terms of, just being lower scoring and overall not as good for fantasy. So we're 7 picks out here. We probably want to give some decent thought to what we want our stack to be. Here, I'll sort by ADP here. Let's see. I'm fairly comfortable waiting on running back because we can get a guy like Jerome Ford, probably in the 4th round of a draft like this. What are you thinking here, Ryan?
Yeah, agreed there. I've been talking to, oh man. Yeah. See, we have Wicks and Brian Thomas going at the one or
wow.
Yeah. Going at the turn there.
That is wild. We could grab tight end because, with McBride gone, I'm not in love with tight end, but it is
not
option.
As huge. Yeah, no, I agree. McBride would have been nice here to just projection max and then kind of figure it out. I mean, Deontay is like clearly our best value on the board right now, I'm guessing, if we were going that route. So I think that's fine. Otherwise it is tight end, I think. We can't do like Daniels Cooper or anything. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty willing to just take Deontay here, and then we can kind of see what comes back to us. And I'm really happy in a 12-man starting out Kenny Walker and Deontay. Building, basically any double around this would make me feel pretty good overall. But we just got to figure out what exactly that double could look like. I would imagine, Metcalf is gone.
I think it's Flacco, man.
Oh man, you might. Honestly, Ryan, you really might be right, and I can't hate it. I mean, Flacco has just been so awesome for fantasy. I don't hate Caleb Williams. And it's probably just a bit too late. We didn't get Chase, so I'm not super interested in Burrow Higgins. Probably won't get any Baltimore guys either. So honestly, you might be right. It might be a Joe Flacco kind of week. Man, I mean, why the hell not? Right. It's a $3 12-man draft and we're playing for first place. So, I do like that. So here, I'll queue up Pittman. I'll queue up Downs.
And also, I guess the angle on Flacco as well is if Flacco doesn't play, and this was brought up on the Badge Bros stream earlier today, so I can't take credit for this one. But my understanding of how it works is if Flacco plays 0 snaps, because it's the 1 p.m. game, if he plays 0 snaps, Underdog will mark him as out. And then at that point, it will allow you to swap to somebody that's in the 4 p.m. games, as long as the game doesn't go past the start of the 4 p.m. or of the 4:20 p.m. games.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but yeah, it's something to think about that makes me maybe not as afraid to go with Flacco. I think outside of like 12-man stuff and 6-mans, I'm probably just going to wait until Sunday or whenever we hear to get the Flacco exposure, because yeah, as you said, you're not worried about ownership even at that point, because yeah, he will not have been drafted in most of the contest.
Yeah, that's a really interesting dynamic with late swap that I can't say I was fully aware of. I think that's a really good note. So definitely shout out Badge Bros for that one. The only problem is you would be limited to only the 425 games, and in a 12-man draft, Jordan Love is going to be off the board. Geno Smith is going to be off the board. Stafford will also probably be off the board. So then you're looking at Daniel Jones as your fill-in quarterback for your Josh Downs, Michael Pittman team, which, doesn't really make anybody happy in a brutal matchup with no Malik Neighbors. But it's certainly better than taking a 0 and, maybe AR balls out. And somehow, isn't the optimal quarterback there. We could also look at Evan Ingram as a run back, who was a guy that I was considering. I think we just grabbed the double now. I don't know.
I don't think you mess around with it. Yeah, I think we just do it, honestly.
Yeah. No, I'm with you here.
And if we don't get like the Ingram bring back, I'm not that torn up about it, but yeah.
And I mean, if
get the main
Brian Thomas obviously would be a great run back in a situation like this, but what did he go, like pick 12? I mean,
he went at the 201 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that is crazy. I actually had a draft the other night where a guy drafted Joe Milton at the 106, and I've been checking my email all day because he otherwise drafted normally. And I've been checking my email all day to see if that's getting thrown out, and it doesn't appear to have gotten thrown out yet, which is pretty interesting. I was excited though, because I grabbed one of my best Burrow doubles in that draft. So I'm fingers crossed it doesn't get thrown out. But really like our setup so far. We have like 2 of my favorite value picks overall on a slate that's, pretty depressed value wise in Kenny Walker and Deontay Johnson. We just grabbed Michael Pittman. We're eyeing Josh Downs here, and then we can grab Joe Flacco, who I imagine people are going to be really hesitant to take, in 12-team drafts right now, obviously because, one, he's the QB 16, QB 17 by ADP, but he also has a 0 next to his, projection number. And, I think at least for me, subconsciously when I'm drafting on like a Tuesday and maybe we don't have the fantasy points projections ready yet, I am looking at the Underdog projected points number and sometimes using that as a tiebreaker, even though I know that their half PPR projections aren't very good and certainly not nearly as good as ours. So I do think that's like an important psychological factor to take into account with some of these teams. I think, most notably this week with Colby Parkinson, whose projection just makes absolutely no sense compared to what we have. They have him at 3.9. We have him at 8.2. I'm convinced they have Tyler Higbee projected in somewhere and just forgot to change it. But overall, really, really like this build for a 12-teamer. Ryan, I got to ask you, how's being full-time been? Last 2 days, big life change for you. How are you feeling about it all?
It is, man. I've learned very quickly I need to be more like regimented in my schedule because I don't know about you. I'm the type of person that will sit down at his computer and just work for 8 hours, 10 hours and realize, I haven't eaten yet today. Like that. Yeah, I think my first calories were at like 4 p.m. each of the last 2 days. So yeah, I need to introduce like some more structure just into my routine without having like a fixed like a office lunch hour or whatever. So
yeah.
But other than that, it's been great, man. It's honestly it's like a weight off my shoulders. Honestly, is what it really feels like.
Oh yeah, I bet. I mean, doing the amount of content that you were doing with like a regular person full-time job is such a grind and just isn't sustainable for many, many years. So really glad that you are full-time. And I kind of figured if we didn't make you full-time, someone was going to poach you and make you full-time anyway. So I'm glad you can keep being my coworker, selfishly, for sure. The big thing for me is just remembering to work out, like on the days where I do have slightly less work. Really forcing myself to work out, because by the end of the season, I am always looking emaciated. I look like what is it, J.K. Dobbins' left calf, and my whole body does by the end of the season. So thankfully, we did get Downs. Maybe we can still get Evan Ingram. I doubt he makes it back to us, but that would be pretty sweet. 8 picks from now. And I mean, if we did get Ingram and Flacco, this would be basically a perfect team if we assume Flacco plays for this sort of format. Pretty heavy on correlation. This is the biggest 12-team contest, I believe, with like 3,500 entries. But even so, more than happy to jack up my correlation in a contest structure like this. I think especially 12-team drafts, you get a bigger edge with the correlation than you would in like a 6-teamer. So feel really good about this.
Yeah, no, definitely. And on the working out thing, my issue is like the opposite. I'm not like trying to get yoked or whatever when I'm working out. I work out because I need to expend calories. Otherwise, I like just balloon up. It was a good thing I wasn't on like a regular stream last year, because if you just saw like my face in September versus my face in December, like from not working out, it was pretty bad. Used to always be like a pretty big just weight swing from September to December for me. But hopefully that won't be the case this year.
I go the opposite direction. I lose weight during the season if I don't really stay on top of things. So coming back around to us here, I think no one's going to take Flacco. So, like the only receivers that you would reasonably pair him with are off the board. They're ours. So I think we go tight end. Njoku's probably our best bet. Let me take a peek at the projections here.
Ingram's gone. I'd be team Njoku here. I think you said earlier we have Parkinson projected higher. I'm fine with that too, if you strongly lean there. I just think like in terms of just in terms of upside, in terms of like never mind, it doesn't matter. He's gone. In terms of which tight end is more likely to just be a featured piece of his offense, it's probably David Njoku. They love him in Cleveland. I imagine they're very excited to have him back.
They do, and it's such a good matchup against Washington. I think we just got to go Parkinson here. I mean, Isaiah Likely would be our next highest projected tight end. I'd be okay with a guy like Cole Kmet, but let's just grab Colby Parkinson. The projection is right. And honestly, in 12-team leagues, he may not even get drafted in every single one of these at tight end 10 with such a brutal projection from Underdog. So certainly like that. I will queue up Joe Flacco. And then really we're just spending the rest of this draft praying that nobody trolls us and takes Joe Flacco, which would be pretty wild. But looks like we're going to end up with a Joe Flacco, Kenny Walker, Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Colby Parkinson team. I mean, that's about as good as it can get for a 12-team format. We hit on our correlations. We got 2 strong values, actually 3, if you include Parkinson. So I'm really, really happy with this team. Any thoughts before we get into maybe another couple drafts and get out of here?
Yeah, no, I love it too. I feel like we always draft really good 12-mans on stream, and I never draft 12-mans on my own. So I'm glad we're keeping up that tradition this week. Has anyone? Oh no, okay, no one's taking Richardson either. I was just curious if we were going to be like, I don't know, like staring down the guy that took Richardson, and like, no, we know more ball than you.
That would be pretty funny. It would be very surprising to me if AR ended up playing. I mean, if you're not taking first team reps on Friday, do they really want you out there? And like another thing to keep in mind is teams do installs during the week. I mean, it's never like a ton, but you're adding plays every single week as you move throughout the season. So if he's not practicing those plays, why do you want him in there? I don't know. All right, we got Flacco here. looks pretty good. So yeah, again, that's Joe Flacco, Kenny Walker, Deontay, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Colby Parkinson team. Really, really good. We've kind of preached all year. This is exactly what you're going for in like a 12-team smaller field format. Good chunk of correlation there. It would have been nicer, I guess, if we had gotten Evan Ingram, but certainly not too bummed about it. Let's rip a couple battle royales, and then we can get on out of here. Ryan, while we wait for this BR to fill, do you want to tell the people where they can find your great content? What kind of stuff are you working on now that you have unlimited time to work on fantasy football stuff?
Yeah, man. So biggest thing is advanced matchups has been expanded this week. I was able to really sit and spend a lot more time on it yesterday, and I'm really happy with how it came out. A lot more notes, just kind of a lot more volume of information in there. I recommend several prop bets. We went 11-1 in that article last week. Not at all expecting to keep up that type of success, but I do think I do genuinely think that applied properly, the schematic matchup stuff, it can be an edge against the books. I don't think a lot of these lines are taking that type of stuff into consideration. So yeah, you can find that on Fantasy Points premium or all-in package. Aside from that, every Monday morning, still dropping 5 stats to know, just kind of an instant reaction to the weekend, just kind of my biggest takeaways. I try to write that one as a little bit more like actionable for like your normal fantasy leagues, in terms of who you should be picking up, who you're buying low on, and like that type of thing. And then of course, if you are a dynasty head, Dynasty Points right here on the Fantasy Points YouTube channel every Tuesday night. I won't be like skipping in and out every other week type of thing on it anymore. I will. They can't get rid of me now. Sorry, producer Thomas is backstage. Yeah, Thomas, you're not getting rid of me on Dynasty Points. If I don't want to ever hear we have too many people tonight, because yeah, you're stuck with me now. I have nothing else to do on a Tuesday night anymore.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. I really I don't play in any dynasty leagues. I've been very entertained by the handful of Dynasty Points episodes that I've watched. I think you guys have really, really fun debates and a lot of good personalities on the show. Thomas, does a fantastic job hosting. There's a lot of really great analysis. It looks like we're going to get Derrick Henry at the 105 in this draft, which is
I like it.
Pretty goofy. Josh Allen going in the first round is just insane. Early in the week, Josh Allen was going round 1, and generally speaking, I just think you kind of wholesale fade any quarterback going in round 1. Especially given that in a normal week, I mean, I guess if all the top tier running quarterbacks were on a bye, maybe you could justify it. But in a week like this week, we've got Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson in a similar tier, so there's just no reason to reach. Oh man, we got Chase.
Yeah,
we got the Chase Derrick Henry. The impossible has happened. Holy wow.
All right, don't mess this one up now. We can't
Okay,
be getting distracted here. And
we got to lock in.
Auto drafting. Okay.
All right. Well, I think we kind of know what we want here. Obviously, we want to go Burrow, Higgins later on, right? I guess the question is just how early do we try to grab those guys? I think in a unique build like this, because again, you aren't getting Henry and Chase often at all. If you did 150 drafts, it might happen, 3 times maybe? I'm kind of inclined to just grab them pretty early. Let's see. I'll sort by ADP. Burrow's 34.
I think you're pretty safe though. Like I have not seen Burrow or Higgins go like early. I don't know.
I'd be so tilted if we lose them. I mean, we could do.
McBride is tempting to me. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. No, let's and we lost McBride.
Oh,
there.
Never mind. Okay, yeah, just do it.
just grab them.
Yeah,
you think
that's pretty much it. I think. Yeah, unless you feel strongly about Marvin Harrison, but
honestly, I'd rather just do it. I mean, I think when you land on
yeah.
something as unique as this, I'm more than fine reaching. So let's go Higgins here. We can get Burrow on our follow up pick. But this is, I mean, I'm probably going to draft 100 teams this week, and this will probably be the only Burrow double I have a chance at getting with Derrick Henry. So certainly got to take advantage. And that's part of what makes like these battle royale drafts so fun, is that you can end up on something, super unique, just depending on the way the draft falls. So,
yeah. So in the Binking in the chat, I think you just draft best player available. Why would you automatically have Burrow and Higgins? The reason for that is, so we already, just on it being a Henry Chase team, we already know it's really unique, right? It's if that is like the optimal play, which decently likely, right? These guys are very priced up in DFS, rightfully so. This game projects really well. I think the best shootout environment on the slate. We're going to be one of the only teams in the contest that has the full optimal, like best projected Bengals Ravens stack, right?
Yeah.
So I'd rather just get rid of like the 5% chance that we get sniped on a Burrow or on a Higgins, and give up the whatever it is. It honestly, on this slate, it's probably like a half a point of projection, or maybe 1 point of projection between whatever other tight end or running back that we would have taken. So yeah, I think it especially makes sense on this slate where you're not giving up much projection anyways, which we've been talking about all night.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So now we're just looking at tight end, and then probably another running back, or maybe the best wide receiver available here. Tight end, our best bets are going to be Kraft, Parkinson, Ingram, according to our projections. Fine with any of those guys. I guess I'm just kind of wondering what we should do at flex more than anything. And with those tight ends, I mean, I'm fine waiting. Oh, and Njoku would be solid too. So yeah, I'm fine making tight end our last pick. How do you want to handle flex here?
Yeah, I don't know. Show me the ranks, the projections.
Yeah, let's see how our ranks do. So Jacob's number 1. Honestly, I think that kind of makes sense, because we are fading.
That does work. Yeah,
right, yeah.
No, that's actually perfect.
All right, yeah. We're pretty excited.
Take
about
the leverage on all the love doubles with our unique Burrow double. I actually love that.
Okay, yeah, that is awesome. I feel really good about this. We can obviously skip Tucker Kraft. We're kind of looking at Ingram, Parkinson here, Njoku, I think. Here, I'll sort by ADP. Njoku, Ingram, Parkinson. Do you have a strong take? I mean, they're all pretty close in our projections. I don't really have one. I haven't taken any Njoku, so
okay. I was just about to make the argument against it, which is
okay.
Like, what if he's more limited than we think?
That's possible. I mean, then we just go, well, I don't really want to.
I just don't want to ruin this team, Jake.
I don't either. I'm pretty excited about it too, man. Yeah, this is tough.
The one we know is not limited is Parkinson. The one we know is going to go out and run 90% of the routes is Parkinson.
No, yeah, that is true. I'm a tad nervous about a guy like Ingram, who runs a lot of stuff underneath against a cover 3 heavy defense. Yeah, let's just go Parkinson. This is, if you like correlation, this is the team for you, man. We got Joe Burrow, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Colby Parkinson. We basically need 2 things to happen. We need the Green Bay game to go off in a way where Josh Jacobs scores 3 touchdowns, Parkinson catches 5-6 passes. Maybe it doesn't even have to go off for that to happen, and then we need Baltimore and Cincinnati to shoot out in a way where Derrick Henry does not get game scripted out. And given how run heavy Baltimore has been, I honestly think they might stubbornly stick to the run, even if Cincinnati did get up 10 or 14 early on. So yeah, I thought that was awesome. I thought we did a really good job completing that draft. We've already, Big King, I totally agree. Higgins in the 3rd is a reach, and probably a far one. But when you start off Chase Henry, I think that's the one scenario on a slate like this where I am okay with it. And I mean, you look like their 3rd round wide receivers, like the guys that we passed on in the 3rd round, don't necessarily project that much better than some of these later round guys. Brandon Blackwell says wasted opportunity. The rarity was already there. Maybe stack with Burrow. Yeah. But T over Marvin Harrison Jr. or half the slate is bonkers. Ryan, how do you feel about that?
I think I like the thought process is okay, right? I think you can make the argument, yeah, if there is someone else that projects a lot better, the rarity's there, it's not affecting like the thesis of the team that much. I think us doing that is more of just a call on this slate where just as we've been talking about the whole night, I don't think the projections are that steep, frankly.
The difference
I would just rather go ahead.
The difference between Harrison and T. Higgins is 1.4 points in our projection. So you really aren't, you just aren't giving up that much. And I think like from an ADP perspective, it can definitely be like, oh no, like I'm reaching massively. But from a projection perspective, it's fine. And again, we're betting on the game environment, and you just don't want to miss, like I said, if I'm drafting 100 teams, I might only have 1 or 2 opportunities at a Chase Henry build. If you're drafting 500 teams, then, maybe you shouldn't reach that much because you'll have more opportunities at a unique build like that. But I think, I think what we did is fine. And I think it would be awesome if we ended up winning with that. If only because it does seem like that's a bit of a contested idea, reaching that much for a favorable stack. But I think it's okay in this format, and this is like a huge tournament too. Brandon says, forget ADP, you pick the best opportunity to get a 20 piece in every slot in the roster. But I mean, I think Higgins has a great opportunity at a 20 piece. So I'm not, I don't think it's dramatically different than Marvin Harrison. If there was like a 6 or 7 point difference in projection between the two, we would have taken Harrison, but the projections are pretty tight. So,
I would also say like with specifically that combination where it's Henry Chase, if you're stacking that, you're never stacking Lamar with Henry, right? So it's Burrow. If you are working backwards from, we have Burrow on our team, Burrow's a guy that you want to double stack, right? I mean, Jake, maybe I doubt you know the numbers off your head, but I'm sure just in the history of Joe Burrow's career, just thinking of, especially of like DraftKings GPPs, right? I'm assuming it's usually Burrow double stacked that is taking tournaments down, right? It's like, yeah, sure, it could just be Chase, and it could be that Harrison is slightly more optimal than Higgins, but number one, we already feel like we're ahead with a unique build like that, so we want to get less things wrong, frankly, is kind of the headspace I was in. And also, Burrow is a guy that I want to double stack, just similar to Love. That's why that's why Jordan Love is going to be so chalky this week, is because everyone loves to double stack him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when you are dealing with a guy like Burrow, a pocket passer with an extremely high pass rate over expectation, you do want to target the doubles. And, again, it's a very unique build. And I just don't think, had we taken Marvin Harrison Jr. and then, the next best player available and gotten Burrow and Higgins with our final 2 picks, obviously that would have been slightly better. But in terms of like an overall projection, by our underdog projections, we're talking about a difference of no more than 3.5 or 4 points, which in a massive tournament like the Battle Royale, 68,000 entries is just, it's barely even noticeable. It's, you're really just not concerned about a 4-point projection when we're aiming for first place. We're aiming for 30K. We're not trying to min cash slightly better. We're trying to win. So, I think the upside is there. I think it's totally justifiable. And I certainly appreciate the comments too. Either pushing back, telling us we're wrong, or just giving your opinions. Because I do think it's a very interesting debate at the very least. So really appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, everybody commenting. I really like the way that we wrapped up this show with, I think, a very interesting draft that might be a little polarizing. But yeah, again, really appreciate it, guys. Go check out our Discord. It's totally free. Fantasy Points Discord, the Underdog Battle Royale channel. You can ping me and Ryan if you have any questions about the slate. And again, thank you so much for Ryan, for Thomas behind the glass. I'm Jake, and we will see you guys at the top of the leaderboards. What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.